directing a psychiatric treatment center for children. And so it was there that I was working, and I was in my office doing clinical records and things like that when one of the young children who was with us came to tell me that we had a pope. And then I think I mentioned earlier that he also told me that the pope was Polish, and I said, "Oh, Billy, don't be
Don't joke.
spreading those rumors around, And then he dragged me to the television set and showed me, yes, indeed, the pope is Polish, and I didn't have the time to go sit and watch television in those days, day or night, but it was a wonderful experience to know that we now had a pope.
But even to ask, how about a month before that? When, because there was an election just before that as well.
Well, you were talking about John Paul II getting...
and then John Paul
sorry,
I.
John Paul I. Sorry. Though.
If I can rewind even a little more.
Yes. With John Paul I, well, first of all, it was one of our child care workers. One of our child care workers called me late at night to tell me that the Pope had died, and I said, "Oh, I think you're thinking a month ago. So we have a Pope now, and of course it was very true. And then it was when John Paul II was elected that I was telling this story. Yes.
Well, and so we'll go back deep into the archives of Vatican Radio, and we'll look at a conclave that none of us, I think, were around for. But before we do that, we want to say a special thank you to Dr. Lislev for being here and sharing such amazing insight into art history, and how that plays a role in the conclave even today.
Well, it's been really great to be here. I mean, in a certain sense, you guys are the nerve center of it all. So it's an honor, actually, to be able to sit here. And, of course, to really have the possibility to talk in a way that it's much harder. We do our best out there I think there's a whole squad of us out there trying to do our best in the secular media. But to really be able to talk about what it means to be the servant of God, what it means for Peter to have died here, what it means for these cardinals. I mean, it's so nice to be able to really talk about the true weight and importance of prayer and how we must pray for the Pope. So thank you for really, it's like a cleanse to come here. I'm ready to go back out and face questions about whether or not this conclave is like the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The hot topic of the day.
At the same time, I often think sometimes the movie or even other media productions can offer an opportunity to say, okay, yeah, you saw that, you read that book, but in reality, this is how things unfolded in history. So sometimes I like to look at it as like, okay, we can use it as an opportunity to say, well, it's not exactly that way, but at the same time, around the globe tuning into our live stream here. Maybe you're watching on a local or a national network, local Catholic radio, wherever you're listening. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to be providing you with all the information we can as we await this historic moment to find out who the new Pope is. And we'll know pretty soon. It's been about about a half hour or so
No,
since the
close to
smoke.
an hour.
An hour.
An hour? Okay.
It was around
the
6
time
o'clock
flies.
Rome
Okay,
time.
there you
Yeah,
are.
it was 6:07 or something.
Something like
So
that.
any moment now there. And we see the crowds are coming in to the square, still streaming in, slowly but surely. On the sides there, you can see on the right side and then the left side after they've gone through the checks there, and then coming into the square. And they can all see things pretty well because there are these big television screens and good high-res ones too in the square and along the Conciliazione Avenue leading into the square. So many people, they can see just what we're seeing all together here, these same images and coverage. Sometimes there's some text message or some subtitling there and info for them, but they can get a good idea of what's happening even if they're not up close, thanks to the nice new technology we have out there.
Well, and I'm sure, as we all talked about before, and Father Paula, you would also, I'm sure, have experience with this, but using like the screens in the square, us doing this commentary, and you have to imagine that social media is blowing up with this moment, you know?
Oh, yes.
I mean, everyone that's in the square is live streaming, I'm sure, taking videos, taking pictures, and so the news is spreading even faster than it would have 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Exactly. Even just here in Rome, just the streets, the cafes. What I found interesting is, I'm sure you've seen the guys that sell trinkets and stuff.
Sure.
Some of them are from Senegal, or from Bangladesh, and so forth. And when the smoke came out, this guy asked me, "Do we have a pope?" And he said, "Do we have a
Do
pope?"
we have
I thought most of them are Muslims, but
Sure.
that kind of interest is really very touching. And I found very moving,
Right.
to be honest. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have another story on that. When Pope John Paul II died, I told you I was on my way to Gambia, and I had to go through Senegal. So in Dakar, there was this long line that I was waiting to go in through immigration, and the guard pulled me out and said, the Pope has died. I said, yes, I know. So then he said, you come up to the front. And then he brought me to the official, and he said, you must have this father go through now because the Pope has died. And then he told me that he had a chapelet, a rosary from John Paul II, because he was part of the police when John Paul II visited Dakar. Next morning, 5 o'clock, I'm back in the line because I have to then fly to Gambia. And again, he came, pulled me out of the line, got me through, is everything okay with you? It was really amazing. But you see, again, what the Pope means to so many people. And he told me he was Muslim, but, it was he was important religious leader.
Right, of course.
Again, I'm sure people around the world now are just tuning in, dropping in and out of this broadcast and other broadcasts to see what we're all waiting for with anticipation of who the new Pope is. And that should be very soon now. And we'll know, of course, not only from the video we have here, but then when the crowds let us know with their cheers and applause.
And it will be we'll all be trying to give you immediately the name of the cardinal, which has now become the Pope. And as I believe, TJ, you mentioned earlier, or no, Father Bob, you mentioned it will be in Latin. And so we'll all be brushing up on our Latin in between, now and then. So that's, we will have the name correctly. And then we'll also get to hear the name that the new Pope chooses to be
I
his
think
new.
the name is always also interesting because it kind of gives this vision of what he wants to do with the papacy. Probably not what he wants to do, but what what inspires him. And Father had an anecdote there. I also have one. And when Pope Francis chose the name Francis, one of the Jesuits in Zambia told me, we were so excited because we thought you were chosen Francis Xavier.
Yes. And actually, it was the next morning that Francis clarified that this was Francis of Assisi. So
yeah, it's true, because a lot of people were trying to guess and figure it out.
That's right. When he met with journalists, he explained the origin of the name that he took and why.
And it's special, like you mentioned about the Paul, right? So it usually drives an idea of what the focus might be for the pontificate, choosing this special name. And we had mentioned earlier, right, that the person, I think it was Liz that mentioned, the person becomes a new person in that sense. The Pope is a new man because he gets rid of the old name, takes on this new name, and he's no longer just cardinal whoever. He's the Pope of the Universal Church, the Pope that is the symbol of the Catholic Church around the world, not only because he's known as Pope, but also because of his white cassock that is widely recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing these camera shots. Those big television screens, people know when they're on camera, and so they have their moment of fame.
They're
Their few
thrilled.
seconds of fame, waving and greeting everyone there. So it's always kind of fun too. It brings a little involvement and participation for everyone.
And it's good that the authorities, I think they planned this very well. You have screens around the Vatican, so that reduces also the congestion. We have the new square, which has just been redone for the Jubilee year here. So there's another screen there just outside this building. And people are just sitting out there. They are not rushing to go into the square because they can see. And maybe they even get a better shot from a better view from the screen there. So there are a number of these large screens surrounding the area. And I think it was very good planning on that part.
Yeah, wonderful, in fact. And then even just the organization, I'm always impressed with the crowd organization, how people are led into these areas to assure that they can get in. It might take a little time, but then also how everything has come off so well without a hitch.
Again, it was almost prophetic because so much of the reconfiguration of the square and Via della Conciliazione was done for the Jubilee, but it served very well for the funeral and now for the new Pope.
Yeah, the city has done all these
Yes.
works projects also to help traffic flow well through the area. And here we have,
Yes. So it's,
it looked like, let's see here, that was Cardinal Schönborn, was it?
yes, and then
also
Cardinal, who was the head of the Christian Unity.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can hear the helicopters. You
Yes.
can hear them in the square now.
Yeah.
So it's getting louder and more apparent that there's people from all over, and everyone's getting images of the square.
And I think the security forces trying to keep the peace. And I noticed also they blocked some of the roads leading to so that people are running across the roads, you know. So
you got to keep them safe too.
You gotta keep them safe, right, Kelsey?
Well, and so one of our colleagues, Lisa Zangarini, she did a lot of research on why we have this tradition of changing the baptismal name of the cardinal into the name for the Pope. And it actually started way back,
It looks like maybe.
Yeah, 2,000 years ago to St. Peter, whose original name was Simon. And so it stems all the way from that. And it's a lineage that has been continuous since that time. And actually, what's interesting is that not all the popes have done this. Out of the 266 now, 267, only 129 have actually chosen a new name, which I never realized.
It was much later before the new name, was put into practice.
There you go. Yeah. And it was John the 12th, Pope John the 12th. And only during that time, from 955 to today, it's only two other people that have not taken new names, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes. So we've gone from the smoke watch and warning now to the Pope watch.
Yes, we are on
the
a
new
Pope watch
here from the central balcony, and I think we're coming up on prime time here. I think soon we should be seeing the new Pope appear, and we're getting some zooming. Some close-ups here of the crowds there, and we saw some Vatican officials. In fact, before.
TJ, I just also wanted. I
as well as the mayor of Rome is out there.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Gualtieri. That's right. For that we saw, was that Cardinal Casper, right? Christian Unity we saw.
That's right.
In the square there, Casper, and then.
I was going to say that it's been interesting also from the time the Holy Father Pope Francis died, how the liturgies have been moving and preparing the people.
Yes.
Even yesterday's mass, just the prayers. We implore you, give us a shepherd
Yes.
pleasing to you, one who will lead us by example and lead us to the gospel truth. This is in the collect and in the closing prayers.
Yes.
So this conclave liturgy is also very elaborate and very moving and preparing the people. So it's not just like this is just a successor to Francis. This is actually, a transformation. This is going to be Peter now, who is going to be taking office.
That's right. Cardinal Ray said that in his homily, didn't he?
And
He did. He
he's
did.
been such
He
a
did.
gift during this time too, Cardinal Ray.
Cardinal Ray's incredible. He's
92 years old,
Yeah.
full of energy,
Yeah.
and